Hello everyone, I already had a video about Kaufmo on my channel, and I see that you liked it very much. So it's time to make a second video about Kaufmo, in which I will prove to you that Kaufmo knew everything that was going to happen to him, and tell you who really betrayed Kaufmo. The answer to this question will shock you, I'm sure. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and comment, and here we go. What if the clown Kaufmo actually just achieved his dissipation and deliberately turned into this monster? I know it sounds crazy and you may ask why I took it. Let me explain. His whole room is filled with exit, and no way out. Kane seemed to him to be the evil overseer tormenting them, and the clown was really obsessed with getting out of the digital circus. And as Pomni even found the door, Kaufmo not only saw it, but also visited it, as proven by the pictures he drew of the same dark and mysterious rooms Pomni wandered through in the pilot episode. But as we already know, it might not be an exit from this virtual reality, but just another place built by Kane based on the wishes of the circus inhabitants. But it's not finished yet, so Kane hasn't shown it to anyone yet. This place is unfinished and glitchy, which only made Kaufmo realize once again that there is no way out of the circus. Judging by Pomni's condition after what he had seen, the clown was certainly in complete apathy after a walk through the familiar office premises, and soon, in the midst of this breakdown, Kaufmo decided to take extremely desperate measures. In one of the paintings, you can see him standing in front of his own absent-minded version and the inscription, "Why?" That is, Kaufmo drew it before he turned into a monster. He deliberately sat and drew the picture, and even then he realized that it was about to happen. But for some reason, he didn't even resist it or try to prevent it in any way. Kaufmo just asked himself the question, why? Why is this happening? Why does everyone who goes crazy turn into it? And why does Kane dislike it so much, when he's just happy to mock them? Then we see on one of the paintings the inscription, "What do the exits say to the clown?" And then we see him again, only on his bed. But Exit can't talk, so someone or something must have put thoughts into his head that made him go crazy. Something that made Kaufmo willingly turn into an abstracted monster. I think Kaufmo knew that all abstracted Kane threw all abstracted monsters into the basement, an area closed off from the digital circus, impossible to enter, and accessible only to abstracted monsters, which can also be seen in one of the paintings in Kaufmo's room. So maybe Exit is there in the basement, and not behind the space inside the mysterious door. That if abstraction is the way out, based on all of this, we get the following. Having the last hope to get out of the Amazing Digital Circus, Kaufmo decided to take a desperate step for a chance to get into the basement, the only area he hasn't explored yet, and where the real exit from the circus might be. Unfortunately, he will never find out, as we see that Kaufmo has finally lost his mind and his former self. He doesn't recognize his friends, doesn't understand their words, and just attacks everything he sees. I think that in such a state, our clown is unlikely to look for a way out, even if he really is somewhere in the basement. But who could turn Kaufmo into an abstracted monster? You will get the answer to this question very soon, but before then, write your version of who put this terrible idea into Kaufmo's head in the comments. After all the inhabitants of the digital circus know that abstracts are not in control of themselves, and that even the smallest malfunction can cause them unbearable pain. Even a completely insane mind could not come up with the idea that the complete deprivation of reason would allow him to escape. And I have a strong feeling that someone from the inhabitants of this place forced Kaufmo to think that way. But who would put such pressure on a clown? The drawings on the wall of his room make it clear that Kaufmo was terrified of their caretaker, Kane. Many people, including myself, thought that Kane was the culprit in this case, but after a deep analysis, I realized that our toothy clown is not to blame at all. He really likes to mock all the residents, but I think he does not want to abstract players because it is essentially an unwanted game disruption, and there's no way a clown with that attitude would trust him. More suspicious to me is Jax. For some unknown reason, he has the keys to every character's room. He lies to everyone all the time, pushes people around, rips off people's body parts, abandons friends in a moment of danger, cheats, mocks. Most importantly, Jax is the last person to see Kaufmo before the clown turned into an abstracted monster. Jax explicitly says that he left his bowling ball in Kaufmo's room not too long ago. That means he was there when Kaufmo locked himself in and wouldn't talk to anyone, at a time when it seemed like no one was seeing him. And just as sneering as the others, Jax could quietly joke that maybe Kaufmo should abstract himself to get out of the digital circus. But despite all the evidence, Jax, like Kane, is not guilty of abstraction. Gooseworx just wants us to think so to divert suspicion from the real culprit of all the madness that happened to the poor clown. If Jax had known, he would have gone to catch Gloinks instead of accompanying Regatha and Pomni, where he actually fled after seeing this horrible scene. Even for the sake of an alibi, Jax would not put himself in such grave danger, for he loves himself more than anyone else in this circus. You might think that Kinger put all this into Kaufmo's head, since he mentioned our clown in his conversation with Pomni, but he is completely innocent. After all, look at Kinger. He's lost himself and doesn't know what's going to happen to him next. It seems to me that Kinger's only thought is how he can live here for at least another year without going completely insane. Ragatha has always been positive, and even though she thinks Kaufmo's jokes are weird and unfunny, Ragatha couldn't make anyone turn into an abstract monster, because all her intentions and actions are aimed at improving the mood among all the inhabitants of the digital circus. But the real villain in this story is the character who remained in the shadows throughout the pilot episode, did not attract the attention of the viewers, and did not want to participate in the adventure to find Gloinks, nor to visit Kaufmo, Zubul. In fact, even after she collected all her body parts from her mouth, you could hear, "I can't believe Kaufmo gave up so easily." Now let's put our money where our mouth is. Many people have noticed that the final scene of the pilot episode of the Amazing Digital Circus is very similar to the world-famous and very popular painting The Last Supper, which depicts Jesus Christ's last meal with his disciples the day before his crucifixion. This is not just a reference for reference's sake, but a direct reference to us. At this very moment, Jesus is informing the disciples that one of them is a traitor and will soon betray his mentor. In all pop culture parodies, as in Jesus' original work, the Messiah is always in the center, and the second person to his left will turn out to be a traitor like Judas Iscariot. However, an important detail is that while everyone is talking quietly among themselves, Judas is sitting silently, watching everything that is going on, resting his elbow on the table. We see a similar picture in the digital circus, but the traitor is not the second character on the left, but the second character on the right. Again, it is Zubul with his elbow out, silently watching a very upset Pomni. This is Gooseworx's way of telling us that the traitor is neither Kinger, nor Kane, nor even Jax, but the unassuming Zubul. Despite the small number of replicas, it was already possible to see that Zubul is rather rude, cynical, indifferent, in general not the most pleasant person who could really aggravate Kaufmo's condition. After all, even at the end, she said, "No offense, Kinger, but I thought it would be you next." Seeing her friend's psychological problems, she just presses on the sore spot, not caring how it might affect him in the future. Also important is the fact that Zubul is Kaufmo's roommate, as her room is literally a few steps away from our clown's room. In that case, no one would even know that Zubul could come to Kaufmo's room, and given her temperament, she might as well have cynically suggested that the clown just abstract himself, which was the final step in Kaufmo's final decision. But if Zubul is indeed a traitor, then Pomni in this case represents Jesus Christ. Even on the official concept art, Pomni is depicted as Jesus crucified on a cross. It's also important to note that she healed her own hand from glitches without the help of Cain, just as Jesus healed himself and others. If you read Tumblr Gooseworx, you will realize that the creator is directly saying that the digital circus is literally a cartoon purgatory, so the reference to the Last Supper is not a coincidence at all, but an important plot component in which Pomni is the Messiah who came to this amazing digital circus to save all the other characters. But from whom or what? Or maybe the purpose of Pomni is much more than just saving the rest of us. Maybe I'll make a separate video about that if you let me know in the comments that you're interested. Now I want to wish you success and good luck, and it's time to tell you, see you in the new video.